Hello, Dr. Pie. So, 2020, are you going to show us something good this year? Come on, we're waiting. Let's see.
Yeah, well, it's funny you should ask that because I'm going to take a step back temporarily from the projects, the CNC and other bits and pieces, and just generally look at ways of learning Python and how I'm going about it at the moment. I'm no expert, but you might get some inspiration from this, and if you don't, well, you know, what have you lost? Free video, innit? So to get started, I thought I'd just have a look at different ways of writing Python. Looking at sublime.text and IDE, Integrated Development Environments, IDEs, not to be confused with IDLE, which is idle, which is the Python IDE, if that makes sense. Anyway, get an editor. You can write Python in whatever you want, really. Notepad, sublime.text, Atom, whatever. I think from what I've read a few books along the way, it's recommended to know how to write it from scratch rather than relying on an IDE. I kind of mix in between using Nano or Vim on Linux VM and idle sublime.text on a Windows machine. To be honest, it doesn't really matter. So anyway, sublime.text is free, but you can get a licensed copy if you want to pay lots of money for a few extra bits, which I don't, because I don't want to pay lots of money. That's up to you. Hello world as usual. So yeah, you type a hello world program, give it a .py extension. If you write it in sublime.text, it just treats it as a notepad file to start with. So give it a .py text and all of a sudden automatically it will give it some nice formatting, which is nice. So I thought I'd throw in a few bits for everybody on this video. You got your Hello World program for anyone who's new to Python and Raspberry Pi, etc. Yeah, moving swiftly on, let's have a look at something a little bit more advanced. Just bear with me whilst I type on the screen as well for those viewers who don't have sound turned up. If you don't have sound on, then shame on you because you miss a lot of the comedy special effects which I kindly provide on these videos. Just me there promoting, well, not really promoting, but recommending a Udemy course which I've recently done. 100 examples, and he sets you a problem and then leaves you to work it out, and then obviously if you get stuck or when you want to see the solution, he provides that in the next section. So yeah, I learned quite a lot from that, and also my trusty old textbook. I think it's always good to have one textbook just to always refer back to. If you have too many, I think you can get sort of snowed under and you can have too many ways of doing things. From the reviews, I think Learn Python the Hard Way seems to be quite highly regarded. Anyway, the Udemy course, yeah, I'm just showing you there. 100 Python exercises. They do start off quite simple, but yeah, they go from simple to fairly intermediate, and I think some, he says, are difficult, but in general they're sort of easy to intermediate, most of them. So this example here is quite an early exercise, exercise 6, just learning how to pick out entries from a list. To begin with, the solutions are, pretty much just one line, which is nice. And we're learning here to make use of the colon and indexing in a list using slice. So here we're trying to print D, E and F. They're actually going to be from 3 to 6 because we start at 0, A is 0, B is 1, C is 2, so D is 3, and then E and F, so we go 3 to 6 and it's upper exclusive, so it doesn't include 6, so effectively we're printing 3, 4 and 5 out of that list, with A being 0. And then we run it in Sublime, so you may or may not know that you can run the code within Sublime as it runs a Python interpreter. I'm not showing how to do it here, but you can Google that, and yeah, I think it's Control B. Control B, it's F5 in other programs, I think idle's F5, but you just run the code from your text editor, which is nice. Sublime text, you can't take input, so if you ask a question and you want user input, then it doesn't run, but for a lot of stuff that's not an issue. Obviously, some of the code I'm writing on the Pi relies on GPIO pins, so Sublime's no good for that. I tend to use Sublime for when I'm learning or studying and doing courses and everything, and then yeah, I use Nano I just write it using Nano if I'm on the Raspberry Pi. Nothing amazingly new or advanced in this video yet, but hopefully it's just showing you one way of doing things, which may or may not be different to what you've seen elsewhere. Here, I've kind of jumped from a beginner example in the Udemy course to looking at classes and object-oriented programming. I'm just referencing an example, exercise 40 in the book Learn Python the Hard Way. So I'm creating a class. The class is called Song. So I create an instance of it with def underscore in it, and then self and lyrics. So when it's called, the instance, the object needs to have some lyrics. Obviously there's no point creating a class if you're not going to do something with it, and so a function inside a class is called a method. So yeah, if there's no method, then there's no point having the class. It's a bit like having a book with no words in it. So you can create as many objects as you want. So if you've got 100 songs, you create 100 objects. And the function sing me a song prints out the lines of the variable called lyrics. So you create an instance and then you kind of put the lyrics into the instance, and then it outputs using the method object dot sing me a song. I'm still learning object-oriented programming, and obviously it's probably intermediate, or definitely intermediate. It's not a beginner's thing. Not sure how much I'm going to use it with my code for the Pi or for the CNC or anything, but it's obviously a massively useful and important part of programming. So I've created an instance called Happy B-Day, birthday as opposed to B-Day, which is something entirely different. So I'm supplying the lyrics to the object. So Happy B-Day dot sing me a song, and that should, all going well, print out the lyrics. In some ways it's easier to learn with your eyes than have anybody explain to it. It's kind of, yeah, you just got to do it rather than watch a tutorial. Not that I'm saying don't watch this, obviously. Watch this by all means. This is for inspiration, or because you're bored and you've run out of cat videos, perhaps. If you've not run out of cat videos, then feel free to go and watch a cat sitting on a robotic Hoover, or a cat jumping off of the piano. So now we've got one object, we can use it many, many times, and that's the beauty of it. I think the way I always remember it is an object in, say, a car racing game. So you'd have a red car, which would be a Ferrari, that would be one object. In the object would have various attributes and methods attached to it. So it would be, car.drive, car.steer, car.brake, and then all the different variables you'd assign to it. So you'd have a red car, blue car, and so on. Again, it's easier to go through a worked example. So I'm not saying you're not going to learn anything from this video, but maybe refer to a reference book and have a go with an example. And then, as I'm doing here, I started off with exercise 40, but then I sort of added my own lyrics. So I created 2 more instances of the object. So yeah, if any heavy metalers are watching this, obviously you know what those lyrics are. But Iron Maiden didn't put blah blah on the end of theirs, because that would have sucked. So I'm going to create another object, call the object FOD. FOD equals song, just like Happy B-Day equals song. Then, instead of writing the lyrics like I did in Happy B-Day, I'm actually going to put the variable in the brackets. Still works, same thing. So then I've created the object, and now I'm going to call a method from within the object. So FOD.singMeAsong, and then it does all of the stuff inside the sing me a song function, which is inside the class. It is quite confusing when you first attempt to study classes. I've kind of taught myself, so yeah, a book and tinkering with code.
Well, thanks for that, Dr. Pi. Yeah, I think I need to go away and have a think about that and practice it, because classes look quite complicated, and I'm not very clever, but I've got a high-pitched voice, and I am good at bossing people around and telling them to subscribe!